I'm just getting back from the Tom Ferry conference. It's the Tom Ferry Success Summit that he has every year. And talk about a great conference. It was action-packed with really some kick-butt material the entire way through. And in this video, I'm going to take 3 days worth of content and I'm going to condense it down into my top 5 takeaways that you can use as a relevant real estate agent out there in today's market. So let's get to it. Number 1, it's all about, well, getting your fire back for real estate. Tom Ferry was the speaker of kind of this topic, and I love this quote that he gave. It's on the screen. It's "The complacency of others is my opportunity." And kind of think about that. What others are unwilling to do, or what others maybe are afraid to do, is really your opportunity to shine in real estate. A lot of us have been in the business for many, many years. Maybe you're watching and you're newer in the business. Well, remember why you got in. Remember your passion and what made you want to get in the business in the first place. This is the time to get your passion back for the business as you prepare for the rest of this year and as we head into next year. I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. And really, I want you to think about writing down these questions. I want you to ask yourself, what is your purpose? Why did you get in the business? But your purpose is not always about business. Your purpose really usually is more personal. That's what Tom talked a lot about on the stage, because you could have a great business goal, a great purpose when it comes to, yeah, I want to help people buy and sell homes. But what's the real purpose of your career? Why did you get up out of bed today and tune in to watch me? But really, what is it that keeps you going every day? He used an analogy that's like, listen, we're not going to think about the deal that fell through when we're on our deathbed. We're not going to sit there thinking about, oh, think about that $3 million I sold that one year. That's not what we're going to think about at the end of our lives. So think about what your purpose is, and maybe that'll help you get some of your fire back. To do that also, you could ask yourself, what are some of your values? What is it that drives you? What are the things that you work towards every day? You know, you guys know that as a company, we have a great set of core values and our core 4 this year. You guys can run with that and make that your own. But can you also come up with your own values? We'll do that together a lot when it comes time for our business planning in a few weeks. But really, think about what your values are and how that ties into your purpose to keep you going. If you have it written out, success is going to come easier to you. Those that have their goals and their purpose and their vision written out in front of them, and maybe it's even in a vision board, it keeps you on track. One thing that you can also ask yourself are, what are your talents? Tom talked a lot about the things that you're good at and the things that you're not so good at. And it's okay to be a real estate agent that's not good at everything. We don't have to be the jack of all trades. We can be good at a few really great things and hone in on those in our business, while then maybe delegating or hiring out the things that we don't enjoy doing or are not as good at. So think about what your talents are and really focus on those. I love this question that he gave that's in that dark orange box. Looking back on your life, picture it now, 10 to 20 years from now, what difference did you make because of your career in real estate? That might help you to get your fire back. I also love this line that Tom used. If I knew I wouldn't fail, what would I do? What are you afraid of? What is fear keeping you back from? Holding you back from doing something that you know that you should have been doing? What's a decision that you've been thinking about that you haven't made just because you're afraid of failure? If you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do? Maybe those little tidbits get you to reignite your energy and your excitement about the industry, because it did me when I was sitting in that room. I thought it was interesting. Tom also had us put out these 4 different quadrants, and we wrote it literally on a piece of paper. And maybe you'll go and do this as an exercise for yourself. You're writing down the things that you love to do in the top left. Then you're going to go over to the right side and write down the things that you hate to do. Now, that's good to break down what you love to do and what you hate to do, because there are things like that. Maybe you love going to listing appointments, but you hate the preparation that comes with it. Or you love following up with leads and getting deals and negotiating offers, but you hate the paperwork processing or the compliance piece of it. So maybe jot down the things that you love to do and the things that you hate to do, because then you can go down to the bottom section where you're breaking down the items that are up above that make you money and don't make you money. And when you think about what makes you money and doesn't, think about the things that you love to do, because I hate to break it to you, not everything that we love to do makes us money. You know, I love waking up every day and reading my daily affirmation. That gets me fired up and going and excited about the world, but it doesn't necessarily make me money. So maybe break down the things that make you money and the things that don't, and then that special sauce, the one that you really want to focus on, are the things that make you money that you also love to do. Think about these things that could maybe reignite you, get your fire back, have a little bit of excitement about real estate again. I also want to help you take control of your own market. That's another thing that Tom talked a lot about. I've talked about it a lot in classes before, that says 5% of your database is going to move in the next 12 months. And on the screen you can see all those little stick figures of people, and 5 of them are highlighted orange. Now in the big grand scheme, 5 out of 100 doesn't seem that impressive, but I love that fact that I put down at the bottom of the slide. 5 extra closed transactions from your sphere at a $300,000 sales price ends up being $52,500 in GCI. Now that's before you're split, but I don't know about you, but I think you might enjoy an extra 52 grand worth of GCI. So think about how your database, maybe you've got 100 people like on this example, maybe you've got double that or even triple or quadruple that. Think about the opportunity, and it's the agent that's closest. I love that quote. Look at it on the bullet. Whoever's closest to the client wins. Whoever's the one that's most relevant, that's staying in touch, and you've all heard those stats that almost everybody likes working with us when we're doing transactions, but only about 15 to 20% of the clients come back to us as agents. Those are NAR stats. And so whoever's closest, whoever stays top of mind, whoever's out there engaging with their sphere, that's the agent that's going to win. So keep that in mind. And I like this stat that Tom used, that 62% of consumers select their agent based on proximity. What that means is the agent that's keeping in touch, the one that's sending them a portfolio review like we've talked about, or sending them neighborhood news every month, or anything that you're doing to keep engaged with them. They're choosing an agent based on who's closest. You might as well do everything you can to stay closest. The whole conference, they use this line a lot, be the knowledge broker, and I kind of love that. That's maybe something that you can take away and use that. Be the agent that knows the stats. You know, you're a good agent if you know the stats. You're a great agent if you know how to decipher them and explain them to the people in your sphere. So know the market, know what's happening. Now, you do that by coming to trainings like you're watching today or going to your office's sales meetings, but in reality, when you know more information about the market and how things are performing, the better agent you can be out there and be that knowledge broker, the expert that's in the room. I think that's really cool. The last line on this slide is, what's the discipline that you've been resisting? It's kind of like that line on the previous slide about, not really knowing what your next move is. What have you been afraid of doing? And if you knew that you wouldn't fail, what would you be doing right now? In the same way, what's the discipline that you've been resisting? Is it getting up every day and doing the prospecting that you know that you need to be doing? Because we know the business just doesn't fall in our laps as real estate agents. So what's that discipline that you've been resisting? Is it getting more engaged with social media? Is it learning our new technology platforms that maybe you've been holding off on doing, waiting for the right time? The right time's never going to be here. You've got to make the right time. You've got to time block that off in your schedule as a business owner, as that CEO, and make time for yourself. All of these things will help you get your fire back into business and help you to have a really successful rest of this year and especially a really profitable 2024. My number 2 takeaway from the conference was all from Steve Harney. He's the founder of Keeping Current Matters. Maybe you've seen that website. They post out great stats about the market. They also have some great marketing techniques and tools. So check out that Keeping Current Matters website if that sounds interesting to you. He used this line. It's concern leads to fear. Fear leads to panic. Panic leads to paralysis. Here's the thing. You, as the real estate agent, you're the one that can help overcome this paralysis that a lot of our clients are facing. It's a weird market. The headlines are crazy. They talk about interest rates every other day. They talk about home values crashing. They talk about low inventory. It's a tough world out there because all these news stories are at everybody's fingertips. So you, as the real estate professional, get to help your clients overcome these objections. And for one thing, arm yourself with knowledge so you can inform your clients and also just be knowledgeable as the agent out there in the industry. I'm going to give you some ways that you can do that came from Steve, because he talked all about how the economy is doing, what are interest rates doing, what is going to happen with home values. I love this line that Steve used. He said, the experts don't even know what's going to happen with interest rates. Why do we always talk about them? How are we expected to know? Why do we make ourselves think that we're going to know what's going to happen with interest rates? So Steve used a point of just getting over interest rates. That's really my number 2 takeaway. getting over the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. There's a lot of great predictions, but nobody has a crystal ball. And so focus on the things that you can control, all of the marketing and the prospecting and all the stats that you can arm yourself with. Those are the things that you have control over. And let what happens in the economy and the world happen. Steve gave you some great stats. And by the way, he said that your clients right now really have two fears. Now, we're the ones that help them alleviate those fears with some facts. I'm going to give you some great facts that you can use to overcome these fears. One of them, like I mentioned, is he thinks that a lot of our clients feel like the home values are going to go down. And you've probably heard that with some of your clients. I'm going to wait to sell, or I'm going to wait to buy my next home, maybe for a first-time home buyer especially. I'm going to wait to buy because I think home values are going to tank. Just go and search on YouTube. You'll see tons of people that are so-called experts on the industry that think home values are going to just crash. Well, guess what? I watched people that said that 5 years ago, and all they've done is rise, 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 rise. So there's a fear. I'm going to help you overcome it. The second fear that a lot of our clients have is that a foreclosure tsunami is coming, that a big number of foreclosures are coming down the pipeline. And a lot of that comes from all of the aid that was received during COVID times. I'm going to help you overcome that fear today, too, with some really good stats, because the facts are what alleviate fear. I love the phrase, facts are the anchor to reality. And so I'm going to give you the ability to anchor your reality today. Now, Steve said this line, deceleration is not the same as depreciation. Isn't that good? Do you think you could use that with your clients? Deceleration is not the same as depreciation. Just because we've had a deceleration in our home values, that doesn't mean that they're depreciating. Now, Steve used a stat like this. I put this into a bar graph for you. This is data from CoreLogic. That's the organization that runs our particular MLS here in Kansas City, and it's nationwide data of home values over the last many months. You can see that it starts in the bottom on January 22, and it goes all the way to this June. And you can see, yeah, we've had some rise and some fall. And by the way, look at the numbers on the left hand of the screen. You can see the percentage change in home values. It doesn't go any higher than 2%, and it doesn't go any lower than maybe negative 0.75%. So a very little change in home values. Now, this is a lot different than what we saw during maybe 2020, 2021. We saw home value appreciations in the double digits, and now we're seeing them in the what? 1, 2, 3, 4. In Johnson County, home values have gone up single digits so far this year. That's a big difference than what we saw just from the last couple of years. And that feels like things are changing. The reality is that the appreciation is just decelerating. It's not depreciating. It's just not rising as fast as it was in the last couple of years. And so we have these stats that we can use to maybe arm our clients with the fact that, hey, home values are changing. And by the way, the dip that we see in this graph also has a lot to do with the seasonality of the business. Almost every year, if you went back in history, you would see that home values go down just a little bit, or they don't appreciate as quickly during certain times of the year, just like we saw in this graph in October, November, December, January of this year. And then here we are in the spring market, it rises just a little bit. So we're seeing not quite as big or drastic changes as we did during COVID times. And I think these are good stats that you can use out there with your clients to arm them with the reality. Anchor them to that reality with the stats that home values, well, they're still appreciating, just not as fast as they used to. There's also these 3 fears that Steve laid out, and I put them up on this slide for you. Number one of them is that so many people are in forbearance. You know, from COVID, a lot of people went into mortgage forbearance, meaning they didn't have to make mortgage payments until they could get back on their feet from whatever they were experiencing during the pandemic. Now, the reality is that in June, only 0.44%, that's less than half of a percent of mortgages were in forbearance. Do you think that's a good stat that you could go out there and use? Because some of your clients are thinking, gosh, everything's going to go underwater here soon because people are coming out of forbearance. They're going to go into foreclosure after that. Well, less than half of a percent of the mortgages out there are in forbearance as of this June. I also love this middle fear because I'm going to help you overcome it. People are behind on their mortgages. That's just not true. The serious delinquency rate, Steve was saying, that's people that are behind more than 90 days on their mortgage. It's the lowest that it's ever been since 1979. that's when they started tracking those numbers. So use that fact that, hey, yeah, I'm sure there are some people that are behind out there on their mortgage. That's always the case. Life happens, but it's the lowest delinquency rate since its time, since its inception of tracking that type of data all the way back in the 70s. That last fear, homeowners are underwater. How about this? There are only 344,000 homeowners that currently have negative equity versus the 16 million that the economy saw back during the Great Recession and 08, 09, all those times where we saw so many foreclosures. And so it's good to know that home values, yeah, the appreciation has decelerated, but it's not gotten to the point where homeowners are underwater. They don't have negative equity. Instead, only about 350,000 homeowners in the entire country have negative equity, when reality is that most people are doing really well with their equity and their home values. 38.7% of homeowners have their home paid for, completely free and clear, no mortgage at all. And then more than 30% of people, homeowners out there, have more than 50% equity. When you combine those numbers, it shows you that 2/3 of homeowners out there either have a paid-for house or they have more than 50% equity. That is a really great picture to paint for the people out there that are afraid of doing something. And also, a lot of these people could pay cash or have really big down payments. Why aren't we out there marketing to them? Why aren't you every day finding the people that have a paid-for home? Because guess what? Those people aren't worried about mortgage rates. They can go out and buy a home for 0% interest because they're going to pay cash. Now, my number 3 takeaway was all about doing more events, more client events, more events out in the public. Jen Dillard, she's an agent in Oregon. She lived in a big city and she moved to a really small town, a town that she said had 3 stoplights. So she went from this big populous suburban area to now this very rural community in rural Oregon. She didn't know anybody. Her husband moved there maybe for a job transfer, and she had the decision, okay, am I going to continue my real estate business, or am I going to find something else to do because I don't know anybody? I don't have a sphere. I don't have a database anymore. They all live hundreds of miles away. So I think this really will resonate with some of you that are watching that are thinking, you know what, I don't have a very big database. I'm new to the area. I'm new to the business. Jen made it happen, and I know that you can too. And Jen did that by hosting a lot of events, and she breaks her events into 3 different categories. I want to give you some inspiration so you can do that yourself. One of the things that she does every year is a picture with Santa, and she has this annual event. It costs her about $1,000. She brings in Santa. She hires a photographer to take pictures. Ends up being that she does a ton of transactions off of this one simple event. I know many of you watching have done that. They've done, pie giveaways. You've done other holiday parties or Cinco de Mayo parties or whatever you're out there doing as an annual event. If you could ask yourself, can you do one more event if it results in 5 transactions? Because that's what happened for Jen. Now, Jen also throughout the year is doing giveaways, and she's also getting involved in her community, attending festivals, having the booths there, maybe doing some networking at different community events, because again, she moved from a big city to a small town, and she had to get herself really ingrained in the community. I want to give you some ideas on how you can make your events better, because I know in your mind you're thinking, okay, I have this event, I want to go out and implement it myself. One of the great ways to broaden your reach is to partner with some local businesses. So Jen has partnered with a coffee shop nearby and a charcuterie place that brings in everything that she needs as far as the food and drinks for that party. And then they're also co-marketing each other. They're able to tag each other on Instagram or connect with each other via reviews from the event. So think of partnering with local business, whether you know somebody or not. Get out there in the area that you're working in and find new people to connect with. That'll help you broaden your reach, because a lot of times when you tag that business, they'll like to share that out or at least make it visible on their own content. I love Jen's point that it's not always about who shows up to the event, because just having an event in general allows you to market yourself. I've talked to you guys a lot about that when it comes to client appreciation events or doing a buyer housewarming party for them after a buyer's closing. It's not always about who walks through the threshold, but it's often a lot about who sees your marketing. It just gives you one more reason that you can get out there and market yourself. And so think about doing the marketing and having this ability to have a reason to get in contact with people again. That's one great thing that comes from doing events like this. Jen had a great tip, and sometimes we glaze over it and we get so busy, we end up at party day, and hey, it's time for photos with Santa, and yeah, I hired a photographer to take the actual kids' photos, but I don't have somebody documenting the event. So Jen makes a point at every event to hire a photographer that's just there to do marketing content. They're just there to take pictures of everything that's happening at the party. That allows you to be a great networker so you could kind of schmooze, read the room, work the room, and give you the ability to actually enjoy the party that you've created. Meanwhile, somebody else is coming up with your marketing content. Jen also will take a time at every party to get the whole crowd in one big group and do this selfie video. She'll take her smartphone and do a selfie video that talks just about, hey, you're not here and we're here. There's still time to come out, so we're here until such and such time. But it also just puts you back out in front. It makes you really relatable to somebody that's watching, maybe on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you're going to post that content. But it also lets you use that in the future to show the audience that you've had. And one of the tips that's not in this, but I love the idea of combining efforts with another agent in your office or somebody with the company to be able to do one of these events together. One of my best friends, real estate agents, when I was actively selling, we would do our holiday parties together every year. We would share the expense that way. We wouldn't tell our clients that it's Patrick and Gina's party, but instead they show up, they think, oh gosh, there's a great crowd here. Well, yeah, some of those clients were mine, some of them were Gina's, but it gives us the chance to collaborate, share that expense a little bit. And so talk to yourself, talk to your people around you, and talk to your broker about ideas of where you could host a client appreciation event. It could even be right at your own office, but it might be a great venue nearby that's maybe even more affordable than what you've imagined. But for Jen, the events really end up getting business, and it's all because she's making a difference in the community and relating to people on a personal level. Guess what? That's what real estate is. It's a personal connection, a personal relationship with people. That's what these events allow you to do. Finally, Jen talked about asking for reviews after the party. And yeah, we have a lot of great testimonials and reviews online from our transactions that we've done with people. But Jen likes to kind of intermix some personal reviews about maybe a party that she threw, maybe that Santa party as an example, because it shows people that are shopping her online, looking at reviews, it shows them that she is involved in the community and makes a difference and gives back. So after the end of every event that she hosts, she'll send out a review request for that particular party, not necessarily about her, but the actual event that she hosted, and that'd be a great thing to do too. I thought that was a great idea, great concept to broaden your reach and get more people to show that you have maybe a great personality in addition to great sales skills, giving you some good ideas. And so get out there and do some new events. I think you'll love doing them. My number 4 takeaway, and the best tip that I think that if I were an agent, I would start doing these right away. It came from Maureen Folan. She's an agent in Queens, New York. She calls herself the Queen of Queens, and she's been doing these seller seminars. She noticed a real big shift in her market. Things were changing. Inventory was low. Interest rates were rising. Home values were on the rise. All of the things that we're facing in our market, Maureen was facing them too. And I love the quote that she gave us. It's that action changes things. And so she knew that she had to do something. She had to figure out what can she do to nurture some new leads and get more listings. She leads this huge team in Queens, New York, a great market with tons of housing units, but her business was shrinking. And the idea that she came up with by ripping off and duplicating somebody else's idea really was to do these home seller seminars. And so she'll host these seller seminars. She chooses to do them in her own office on a Saturday morning. Here's a picture of her doing it now. Her key is that she sends out invites, but she also feeds them. She'll give them a light breakfast in the morning. She said coffee and donuts. And then it's like maybe a mid-morning type of an event, because then you can feed them lunch afterwards. And the lunch allows you to maybe make a more one-on-one connection with the group that attended. So she'll send out a postcard to her geo farm. Maybe Google her. There's some great examples that you can see online, Maureen, and even on her website. And her whole focus of these seminars is to share facts and not fear. That's kind of been the topic of all of these speakers, is really to be the anchor of fact and to be that knowledge broker like I was talking about earlier. So Maureen shares facts about how the market's actually performing, not the headlines, but the actual facts of what's going on in the market. And a lot of the demographic that attends her seller seminars are maybe somebody that's ready for a downsize, somebody that's got a pretty big home, that's got a lot of stuff, and they're ready to make a move, and maybe in their mind they've been thinking about moving in the next 2 to 3 years, but they didn't know the market was as hot as it is, that it's as good of a seller's market as it actually is, and such low inventory and very competitive out there. And so Maureen is able to share those facts with them. And during the conference, she gave a testimonial video of somebody that said, we've been thinking about selling, and we were thinking about doing it maybe a few years from now, but after attending Maureen's seller seminar, we ended up doing it right away. So think about the things that you could present that maybe aren't like a slimy sales tactic. That's not what this is at all, but instead it's sharing facts about the market and really just being the agent that whenever this seller decides to move, they're going to think of you because you hosted this seminar, gave them your time, fed them a little bit, but also gave them some really great information. Now, Maureen's line is that the appointment is in the follow-up. And isn't that the truth? We know that in our own lives to be true. So Maureen's special sauce is that she sends out a thank you video the same day, and it's customized, personalized to that particular attendee. And it says, hey, Patrick, thanks for attending my seller seminar. Just wanted to say thank you and hope you enjoyed the seminar and the information. And if you're ever ready to make a move, I'm your guy. You know who to call. You could use a line like that, but she'll record a series of these little videos. Her assistant sends them out individual to that particular person. You could do the exact same thing on your own, even without any extra help. Maureen then calls the attendees the next day for a follow-up, and she's not afraid to ask for the appointment to maybe get a valuation of that homeowner's house, or maybe figure out maybe that their timeline a little bit more, or some staging tips or things that maybe they need to improve before they go on the market. She approaches it as offering help to these sellers, and so she tries to book an appointment, and she has a lot of success because in the last 12 months she's had 15 listings off of these seller seminars. I don't know anybody out there in the marketplace doing a seller seminar. We'll hear them sometimes about those first-time buyer seminars. Shift your mindset a little bit. Do something like a seller seminar because I don't know anybody else out there doing it, so it's your chance to shine and set yourself apart from the competition. My last takeaway, number 5, is all about AI. How can you as an agent be better at using AI? Jason Pantana works with Tom Ferry. He's one of the coaches on staff, and he used the line, how much time are you wasting? What are you doing, spending time on things that you could have AI help you with to make yourself more efficient on your day-to-day? I'm going to talk about some great things that you could use with AI that I think are relevant. But before I do that, I just want to put in perspective that AI is not as scary as what we've made it out to be in our minds. Think of it this way. When Facebook came out, or even MySpace back in the day, Jason talked about this. You really had to learn that platform. You had to learn what to do with it, how to use it. The nice thing about AI, you just talk to it. You just tell it what you want it to do. There's not really a learning curve. So quit talking yourself out of not using this artificial intelligence and find ways to help you save time, make your life easier as a real estate agent. I want to give you some ways that you can do that. For one thing, he used the phrase that you can either be an expert or an amateur. Isn't that good? Now, I don't think you need to be an actual AI expert to benefit from a lot of the things that we're going to talk about, but don't be that amateur because the agents that are using it are going to outpace you because they're using this technology to make their lives easier. You've seen me do it before when we're updating our bios or using marketing, like writing blogs for our website that you can easily post online and make your own. You've seen me in my classes talk about that. I challenge you to do that now that you're fired up, ready to go. Get out there and use some of this AI to update some of your marketing, update your online bio, all those things that we've talked about. Jason introduced the idea of evaluating your business procedures using AI. Could you go out there and talk about your listing process? Could you upload that 200 plus ways of marketing your listing and also upload maybe your timeline of how you service your seller? And do you think maybe ChatGPT could analyze your business practices and see if there's any gaps that you could fill in for you? So using AI to actually analyze and evaluate the things that you're doing, I think that's cool. I've got that bullet on there for the Otter app. If you haven't downloaded that, that will transcribe a conversation that you're having. So like I sat in that conference and I had the Otter app going and it was transcribing Jason and what he was talking about. And then at the end, it'll summarize it and it'll say the bullet points of what's most important about that conversation that you had. And could you use that maybe even for your listing appointments? That's an idea that Jason had. You could then take your transcription, upload it into ChatGPT with really just a copy and paste and say, what could I have done to handle this objection better? Or what could I do to streamline my presentation? And because the Otter app will pick up on things that you've left out. It'll pick up on maybe weird objections or weird questions that came up from your client. And then you can use ChatGPT to maybe hone in on your skills and become better at that. I thought that was a great idea. There's this cool app called Jan.ai, G-A-N, .ai, and with that you can personalize videos. I could literally record a video that says, hey Michelle, it's Patrick with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. And then maybe it was an introduction to who I am, but then maybe my next client is Joanna. Well, that app can take that video, move the pixels of your lips, and record your voice and have it say, hey Joanna, it's Patrick. And so we're streamlining our lives a little bit. Now, is that something that you can go out and do right away? No, it's going to take a little bit of setup and prep, and you really have to decide if it's worth using or not. But I just thought that was a cool, relevant way that you could use this AI for good purposes, to be able to streamline some of your marketing and just personalize it a little bit. He showed us an example, and you would not have known that AI re-recorded that person's name in that little snippet. So look up Jan.ai to personalize some videos. There's also some AI out there that could reply to maybe even reviews online. There's an app or a connection in with your Google business profile that if you get these reviews on that profile, the AI can reply to them. That way somebody does, so you don't forget about it. So start researching and becoming better at how you could implement AI into your own business. The number one thing you could do is just create a profile with ChatGPT, play around with it, and then that last bullet on the screen talks about study prompting. And watch some YouTube videos, do some Googling, figure out how you can be a better prompter. Because like I said, there's not really a learning curve with AI, you just talk to it. But the way that you prompt it, the way that you request and ask them to do the certain things that the AI is doing, that's how you're going to get better results. So study that prompting. Now, I had this picture, and it's a great picture of a listing that I had back in 2017, 2018. Great listing, fresh snow. I was like, I got to get over to this house and take a picture. So I took this photo with my iPhone back, many years ago. It was a listing that I had for sale at the time. And Jason was telling about this app called Runway ML, and it'll take a photo and turn it into a video. So look at that. There's the video right there on the screen from the picture that I had on my listing. Now, he warned us that it doesn't work very well with people in it because it might add an extra arm or something, so be careful with that. But instead, use it maybe for listing photos. I've got an example here how it turned it into a video. He showed an example of a view off of a balcony with an oceanfront listing. Obviously, we don't have any of those here in Kansas City, but maybe you could make some great new content. I did this for free yesterday on the Runway ML website or the app, and you can easily do it too. You can notice it's got the watermark on the bottom. You can pay a little bit more to remove that or make a longer version of it, but I just wanted to maybe excite you a little bit about some of the things that are out there for AI, because I think it's coming. It's here. You got to do it. And if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, and it's going to make them seem more relevant than you. I don't want that to be you. I want you to be the most relevant agent out there in the market. I had a few honorable mentions that I think are worth mentioning to you. One of the agents that was talked about instead of love letters, those letters where your buyers will write really full of fair housing violation type of letters to the sellers to try to convince them to take the offer. Instead, this agent is using lender love letters. She has her lender write a great letter about how well qualified they are, how they've been very responsive in the process, they've gotten all their paperwork in on time, and so she uses this process called lender love, and she uses the phrase in the letter that this is the one, this is the house. That's something that she uses as a difference maker, a lot of excitement about the property, and so maybe try that. She was talking about how in her agency agreements, she's excluded the use of love letters at all, whether it be a buyer agency or a listing agreement. I thought that was a really good concept to help you stay out of fair housing trouble. We know that sometimes those love letters have a lot of personal things about the clients themselves, and that's a really bad way to change the objectivity of an offer. And so maybe preventing those love letters altogether is a concept that you run with, just an idea out there. Tom used this line on the second bullet: many agents will become less relevant by those who are willing to adapt. Let's say that again. Many agents, maybe you, might become less relevant by the other agents out there that are willing to make adaptations in their processes. So what can you do that we've talked about today to help you stay relevant and stay top of mind and stay at the cutting edge of real estate, because things are changing so quickly? I've given you some great chances to go out there and do that yourself today. I love the line, if you create the chaos, you can stop the chaos. Think about our lives, and I mean this with love, but sometimes we got a lot going on. We have a hard time getting to the office on time for sales meeting, and it's this and this and this and this and this. You love the line that I use a lot, we all have the same amount of time every day. Well, I love the line that Tom and his team use, that if you create the chaos, you also have the ability to stop the chaos. Jimmy Mackin was up on the stage. He's been a long-time real estate speaker, always up to date on the trends, and I loved his line, every Zillow seller lead is a buyer who was abandoned by their agent. Now, he also talked about how there's kind of an exodus of real estate agents out there in the market, and some of the clients, some of the home sellers or homeowners at least, kind of need to be adopted by a real estate agent, because the person that sold them that house, they might be out of the business. They might have already changed careers. So you have this opportunity to get out there and engage with the people in your sphere, but broaden your sphere by maybe doing some farming this upcoming year, because there is a percentage of agents getting out of the business, and those people don't have an agent anymore because they got out. There was a marketing expert, Mark Davison, on stage. He talked about how fluffy emails are a waste. I think you could debate that for a long time. Fluffy emails, he was talking about like recipes or gardening tips or, other little fluffy things that have nothing to do with our actual line of work. So his focus was in the next year to really have your email content be relevant to your business. Is it neighborhood news that you're sending out, for instance? Or is it an update on home stats as a whole market as part of your video content? So think about the things that actually apply to your business, and maybe not the upcoming Happy Labor Day email. Yeah, that's good. It helps you engage with your people. But Mark wanted us as agents to go beyond some of that and stay always on task, always relevant with our actual line of work. Sean Aker was up on the stage. He was talking about how the best indicator of future sales performance is your optimism. Sean was the keynote speaker. His whole message was about staying positive, and actually they have done research studies with thousands of participants that show that the best indicator of future sales performance is based on your optimism. So I hope the things that I've given you today have helped you stay optimistic about the business and what's out there to come for you, but also how can you empower yourself? One of the ideas that he had that I loved was to write down 3 new gratitudes every day. And you can't have a repeat. And so maybe for September, you're going to start writing down 3 new gratitudes, and you have to write them down. Put them in a Google Doc or write them down physically on paper, but you can't have a repeat. And what you'll notice is that your perspective of the world changes. He was talking about how they've done research studies in actual workplaces, and they've studied co-workers together, and the atmosphere of the environment completely changes when everybody's writing down 3 gratitudes. It sounds like a cheesy, simple task. I challenge you to do that, where you write down 3 and report back to me. Let me know the results of that. I think that's really cool. Tom had 2 great lines that I'm going to wrap us up with today. I want you to only think 1 quarter at a time, but it's interesting to think of your business in that 12-week period, only a quarter at a time, because in January, it's going to be really easy for you to say, hey, I got plenty of time, I'll get that done by the end of the year. And then guess what? September, October, November rolls around like we're in right now, and we realize we haven't hit our target. So if you focus on your business a quarter at a time, it helps you stay more on target, and it also actually helps you exceed your goals because you're being more realistic with the things that you're putting out in front of you. Tom's last line is that you're not being successful because you haven't defined success. You haven't defined what results mean to you. What does it mean to have a great 2023? And even more, what's it mean to have a great 2024? You have to actually define it. So when we get into our business planning, that goal planning strategy that we'll do in the coming weeks with you and me and your broker, really hone in on that, focus on that, because when we write it down, we're going to see results. We have defined what success is to you, and that's going to keep you on track as we head into the next year. Those are my top 5 recaps, my great takeaways that I had at the Tom Ferry Success Summit. It was really one of the best conferences that I've ever been to, full of great content, full of great speakers, and I hope maybe you come to it next year. I'd love to sit next to you, help you network with 5,500 other people, and anyway, I hope you enjoyed some great content out of today, and I hope you have a very successful rest of this year and an even better 2024.